Melfort Mustangs took down the Humboldt Broncos 5-4 in Game 7 at the Northern Lights Palace. They move on to face the Flin Flon Bombers in the Canterra Seeds Cup final starting Friday night at the Whitney Forum in Flin Flon. And here to talk about that playoff, and he doesn't know it yet, but all of Junior A hockey in Canada, is Kyle McIntyre, our good friend, the commissioner of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. Commish, welcome back to the RP show. How would you describe these playoffs so far to people that hadn't heard or didn't know how it's gone?
Good morning, Rod. That's a great question. I would say that we have extreme competitive balance in the playoffs. Even though some of our series went 4-0, the scores in the games were extremely tight. Teams are fighting for every inch. Anyone can win on any given night. The last series we saw with Melfort and Humboldt, in fact, had 10 overtime periods, ended in a Game 7 in overtime. Really, that series could have went either way. The rinks were jam-packed. We had lots of fan support. We had lots of community support. Players were battling for every inch. And for the most part, the officials let the players play. And so very entertaining hockey, very emotional, very engaging. Flin Flon has been waiting in the wings for the winner, and they got Melfort. And the two best teams from the SJHL are going to be in the final.
Two best teams left standing now for sure, and everybody vying for a spot in the Centennial Cup in Oakville, Ontario, coming up later this spring. You mentioned the communities. You travel to them all as the commissioner. Give me a sense of what you've seen and what you've felt from when the playoffs began to now.
Well, obviously, throughout the season, we had pretty good average attendance, Rod, probably around 680 fans per game. But probably during the playoffs, it brings out a whole different group of people who maybe are season ticket holders that don't go to all the regular season games. But probably on average here, the last two rounds of playoffs, we've been averaging 1,500 to 1,600 fans per game. And as you know, a number of our communities are smaller communities in Saskatchewan. And so when you're putting 1,500 or 1,600 people in a rink, those rinks are jam-packed. There's cowbells, there's air horns, there's clappers, there's signs, there's jerseys, there's flags. Everyone is really engaged. The entire communities are engaged with these teams. When teams are going to visit another team on the road, there are parades down Main Street. There's fans standing on the street corners. This is really what playoff hockey is really about. And in Saskatchewan, people love their hockey. And in our communities in the SJHL, people love the SJHL championship. So it's been awesome. The rinks are electric. They're loud. I'm sure after the playoffs, I'm going to have to go for a hearing test. Really engaging, very fun to be a part of, just super electric.
I'm glad I asked. It's a great answer, and it's like a dream job for you, obviously. I got to, hopefully we have enough time to get through all my questions here, because I got a few. Kindersley and Weyburn are new to the playoffs. Melville, too. That's nice. Nice to have some markets that haven't been in for a while.
Yeah, it was great. Really, Melville this year, the fans really came back. When the team is competitive in Melville, as you know, Rod, is a hockey community. And so they came back in droves, and it was really exciting to see them back in playoffs, probably since the first time since the play-in 2018. It was great having Kindersley back, albeit for two home games. That West Central Event Center was absolutely electric. Probably average about 1,200 fans. There are air horns. It was loud. It was raucous. It was tough to hear yourself think. And so that was super good. Weyburn, of course, Cody Mapes had Weyburn in the playoffs for the last 2 years. And again, normally that rink probably draws around 500 or 600 on a weekend. But in the playoffs, you're looking at 1,100 people. So playoffs, really, the attendance intensifies. More people from the community come out. Parents, fans from the opposition, they come to those games. And so really, playoff hockey is what everyone in Saskatchewan loves, and it's well supported. It's awesome, and it's been terrific hockey, to be totally honest.
It's interesting you say Weyburn's second straight year in the playoffs. Sure. I mean, that's my second hometown, Weyburn, but this year was more exciting, from what I understand, that the whole city was engaged, going to a Game 7 against Humboldt and so forth, which is fantastic. Now, I got to ask you a question off the board, but you can handle it. You're a smart guy. I can't imagine the weird off-the-wall questions you must get as commissioner. And I'll give you a reason why I ask. I do this podcast on the Panthers and the Lightning. It's become very popular in Florida. And now they're playing each other in the playoffs, and people are up in my face since last night. Who are you cheering for? And I'm like, I'm like the dad. I don't want anybody to get hurt, and I want a great series. You must get that all the time, Kamish. Who are you cheering for? Do you get that from fans?
Yeah, so that is you're totally right, Rod, and that's always the question of there. Who you cheering for? Well, what are your predictions? Well, I predict the very entertaining final, or I predict a very good series. And as the commissioner, you want to see hockey that's competitive. You want to see hockey that's decided between the teams by a good hockey play. You don't want to see the officials, although they're super important. You don't want to see them make a call that maybe is the difference maker in a series or in the game. And so certainly you try to be neutral. You want to make sure that fans are engaged, but they're being respectful. And although the teams compete hard inside the glass for 60 minutes, you want to make sure that, people are professional to one another. They're competitive, but they're playing within the rules and within the lines. And so really what I want to see is I want to see competitive hockey. I want to see hockey ended on a skilled play. You want to see some physicality. You want to see the passing. You want to see the speed. You want to see the skill. And certainly all the games I've been to, Rod, those games have featured all of that for sure. It's been awesome hockey.
So who are you cheering for, Flin, Flon, or Melfort?
How about that?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's tough to pick. There's not much of a difference between those two teams. Each team has different strengths and different elements. When I look at Melfort's lineup, the line of Clay Sleva and Aiden Hutchison and Ryan Duguay and James Van in goal and Olofsson on defense and Chase Fried-Moore, that's a five that very few teams can probably match in the league. And then, you look at Flin Flon on the other side, they got Laser Human goal, and he's a pretty good goalie. And, they got on defense, Noah Houle or Adam McNutt. And then up front, they got the Lies brothers and, Carter Anderson. Like, it's going to be great hockey. I cannot predict. I think home ice will have a really big effect in the series, but probably whoever is healthiest and whoever is game ready, Rod, is gonna win that series.
I didn't expect you to even answer it. I was just joshing you more than anything. But because I follow it incredibly closely, Flin Flon was number one for 35 of 37 weeks. Flin Flon was number one in the national rankings, and just near the end, they were number two based on winning. This is clearly, the Bombers are the favorite, right? I don't think anybody's surprised to see them in the league final.
Right. And, and Mike Reagan, as you know, has been at it a long time, 17 years. And Flin Flon really hasn't had a championship since probably 93, I think it is. And so the people of Flin Flon are certainly hungry for a champion. And although as much as Mike Reagan would like to hoist the Cantera Seeds Cup, I'm sure there's lots of pressure on Mike Reagan's shoulders these days. So it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be televised on Flow Hockey and on SaskTel Max. And so the people of Saskatchewan are going to be able to watch that game and see the SJHL's Elliot Friedman, Jamie Nugenbauer, and Rory McGoran call the game, and it's going to be awesome. And certainly, if you can't tune in to SaskTel, tune in to Rob Hart, the legendary broadcaster for the Flin Flon Bombers.
I was going to say, let's get Rob Hart a ring. Forget about everybody else. Let's get Rob Hart a ring. If there's anybody that deserves it, it's him. The voice of the Flin Flon Bombers and my old buddy from way, way, way back PA days. And, hey, you got a beautiful arena there in Melfort, which literally looks like the day that it opened. They've done such a great job maintaining that. And then the Whitney Forum, which I've never been, and God willing, I won't. Oh. But people can tune in, like you say, on television to have a look at that legendary arena. That's just a fantastic matchup there, too.
The arena in Flin Flon, the Whitney Forum, it's like a cathedral, Rod. It's half museum, it's half hockey rink, it's half biblical in nature. It's so steeped in tradition, and although there's been upgrades, there's probably not another junior A hockey environment like the Whitney Forum, and known affectionately as the zoo, and truly it is. And in these playoffs, I mean, I'm not sure what it's like in Florida, but a lot of fans have started taking these cordless drills and taking out the innards and either putting in a compressor or wiring in car horns and truck horns into the drills. And so certainly Flin Flon, Director of Marketing Jacob Faith and I were up there a couple weeks ago for the Battlefords versus Flin Flon. And there must have been 100 of those drill horns in the crowd. Like, it was absolutely so loud, and the fans are loud there to begin with, and they're right on top of you. And so it's a junior hockey atmosphere like no other.
They're going to be running out of moose legs. Well, I will say to you what I said to my dad when he called me from Flin Flon, then when they were honoring Bobby Clark and Reggie Leach. He said all the same things you just did. I said, I'll take your word for it. Kyle, safe travels. Have a great series. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Rod, and you enjoy the playoffs in Florida. That's going to be an absolute corker.
Absolutely. Thank you. The Commissioner, Kyle McIntyre. Always fun junior hockey discussions, particularly when it comes to the SJ.